Welcome to our spoiler review of Gemini by Kristoff and Amie Kaufman.
I love that it's blue.
I love that it's blue.
It's so pretty.
So bets on what it's going to be next year?
I'm saying either purple or green.
I'm going to go with purple. Getting our hands on this book was a massive lineup at VIA.
We didn't think we were actually going to get it.
And I'm so happy to see people excited about this series because it is incredible.
Like when you think about the first year when they just had like stacks of the first book everywhere. Like you were practically tripping over them.
Yeah, you could have walked away with 5 and nobody would have even noticed. But this year it was a fight to get this book.
So this time we are not actually following Katie and Ezra. We are following Nick and Hannah, who are both on the station Heimdall. And just because they are not Katie and Ezra doesn't mean that they are not like amazing.
I love these two. I almost love Nick more than I love Ezra. Yeah.
He kind of has more of a personality, I feel, yeah. Nick's family has connections to the Russian mob, or like the equivalent of the Russian mob. They're called the House of Knives. They do the whole tattoo thing. Hannah is the daughter of the captain of the space station, and you'd think that would make her kind of like a rich
bitch,
but she's not. She's like hardcore into strategy and chess, and she goes to the dojo constantly, and throughout the entire book she's quoting like generals and strategists. And it's really funny because she'll be like, have you ever heard of the Battle of Thermopylae? And they're like, huh?
That was thousands upon thousands of years ago in Earth history. Why the fuck we would have we heard of that?
Or
like,
Napoleon once said.
Hannah kicks so much ass in this book. Like, she practically takes down half the squad. Also, another big character is Nick's cousin Ella, who's paralyzed, but she's a computer genius, and she spends a lot of time fucking with the hit squad that comes in. Okay, so to sum up, basically after the Carenza attack where, you know, they tried to silence everybody in the colony, but the Hypatia got away, Baytek is like, shit, we've got to clean up this mess. We cannot let them breach civilization and let them know what we've done. They send an audit, aka hit squad, to the station Heimdall, and they land. Nick lets them in.
And it just becomes a shit show.
Immediately walk in and shoot Hannah's father. Then the entire station's on lockdown. Most people are corralled in one place, but a few other people are like in out pockets. Hannah is running around just trying to do shit. So is Nick.
Because Hannah wasn't there because she was meeting up with Nick because Nick is her drug dealer. And I mean, I really love that Nick and Hannah had a relationship before the book started. So we have ground to work from. It's not like this is the first time they ever met. They kind of have an idea of who each other is, and as the book progresses, they kind of get to move past that idea and learn more about each other, so it feels very natural.
And Nick flirting with Hannah is like every guy who's ever been like way too into you on
hey
text.
Baby.
Hey, don't you want to leave your boyfriend for me?
Oh my god, it's so funny.
It's so funny, and you're like, on one hand, you're like, oh my god.
Because you know if that would happen to you, you'd just be like, oh, yeah, get away from me.
You would never talk to this person, but I guess because he's her drug dealer, she puts
up with it, yeah. She's dating this guy already, his name is Jax. And so one of the big twists is you find out that Jax is Rapier, who is like one of technically like the sleeper agent of the hit squad. And I was reading it and I'm like, he's like, I don't trust him. Like about 30 pages before the reveal, I'm like, he's totally Rapier because they set up that other guy too well to be him, you know? I don't know if I texted you that.
You might have.
I think I might have texted you being like, I'm just putting this down now. I think this guy is Rapier.
And so that totally like clears the way for Hannah and Nick to get to know each other and actually have a relationship. And you know, Nick has lived through some pretty shitty situations. His father was a horrible person. He ends up kind of like driving his brother to commit suicide. Nick ended up going to jail for shooting a kid which he didn't do, and his name was cleared eventually, but you know, he's still technically got that rap.
Let's talk about the parasites.
Yeah.
Okay, so the House of Knives, aka the Russian mob, is selling this drug, this psychedelic crazy drug. And this psychedelic crazy drug is mined from these like, they're kind of introduced as like these larvae kind of snake like worm things that end up becoming these giant like dog-sized snake monsters that are like right out of my worst nightmares. So what they do is they inject them into the cattle because, you know, it's the perfect place for them to like grow, and nothing bad's gonna happen to the cattle because once they get too big, they're gonna extract them, get their drugs, whatever.
Kill them.
Yeah. But because the House of Knives is pretty much taken out when the audit squad joins the party, the parasites just get bigger and bigger until, like, in this really, really graphically described scene, they, like, burst forth from the cattle. It really reminded me of Alien, like the very first chest burster moment in Alien, and I'm just like, oh god. And the way they describe it is beautiful because, like, they're talking about it, and then the next thing is like a Wikipedia page that just describes them, and I'm like, thanks, this is lovely.
And they have, like, they don't have black skin, they have, like, psychedelic skin,
like
almost.
They ooze.
Yeah, and they ooze, like, this, like, mind-numbing
and they
psychedelic
feast
drug.
on thoughts.
Yes.
And so, like, this one guy in the hit squad, he's out trying to, like, put these things back into the engine thing, and one of the little, like, worm guys got into his suit, and he's talking, he's like, the angels, they're black. And I'm just like, nope. So I found myself wondering, I had this big debate in my brain, which is worse? These worm things, or the chemical attack in the first book?
Probably the chemical attack. If you die from these worm things, you're gonna die happy. You know what I mean? It's shitty what happens to you. You go brain dead, basically. But you very peacefully go brain dead. Whereas in the last one, they'd, like, rip out your tongue and your eyes and then nail you to the floor and then leave you there screaming as you die.
Crazy drug-fueled thing, or the Reavers from Firefly.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pick your... which makes
I'm
you
going
most
with the
uncomfortable.
parasite.
I don't know, anything to do with, like, losing your mind really, like, freaks me out.
Hours and hours of pain and torment as you die.
We leave this up to you, so tell us in the comments which makes you the most uncomfortable.
Crazy shit goes down because you have all these, like, forces intersecting. Of course, there is tons of fucking humor in this book. My absolute favorite is the pop song Virus that goes in and it takes out all the pre-recorded messages and it just replaces them with this pop song about licking lollipops.
My favorite thing is when Aiden has to start transcribing audio and video because he's just so sarcastic about it. Aiden was my favorite character from the first book because he's just so, like, crazy AI. I love crazy AI.
Yeah, he's so screwed up, but he's so much fun, which is such a weird thing to say.
And he has kind of that weird crush on Katie, which is, like, weird but kind of funny. And the fact that, like, when we finally do see Katie, she's, like, poking away on the tablet, and you know that she's pretty much poking away at Aiden.
Yeah, she's having conversations with him and no one knows.
Finally, when the Hypatia starts getting closer and they're being told, this is what's happening, she's like, oh, by the way, so, I have Aiden here. He could help us. And everyone's like, no, don't put him in the mainframe. But he can help us.
This is our only option, people.
And so she finally gets the go-ahead to do it because the Bitech, they have a complete backup plan. So, like, after the audit team gets finished with their job, this, like, fleet of drones is going to come and just, like,
wipe out the Hypatia.
Possibly also including the audit team, because they're, like, not supposed to leave Heimdall. Like, Heimdall's supposed to be reduced to rubble. Like, everything is supposed to be gone.
Basically, Baytech, like, double crosses the audit team, so they're like, oh yeah, we're sending in drones to kill the Hypatia, and then you get out, and then, you know, it'll be fine. But they send in a second set of drones that's meant to take out the audit team, which is, like, super sneaky. One of the problems, and I say one of, because there's many, is that Heimdall holds a wormhole for, like, jumping to other places in space. And this wormhole needs some maintenance badly, and that's what they were supposed to do on Heimdall, but when the audit team took over, it did not get done. So the audit team's trying to do this maintenance, but what happens is there's a stick of something that is very...
like rocket fuel, like crazy, like, rocket fuel.
Or like uranium or something. And when they turn on the wormhole again, it interacts with the substance and it creates, like, a paradox in space-time. You get a Nick from another timeline getting swapped places with a Nick from our timeline, and so in order to fix the major problem, they have to switch him back, and then space-time will not collapse. There's so much in this book that, trying to sum it up, is exhausting. But basically, Katie manages to defeat the audit team. Most of them herself. Ella takes out a few, Nick takes out a few, the parasites take out a few, you know, all the good stuff.
And then we have our like Illuminae team gets huge because we get Nick and Hannah joining them. So now we have Nick, Hannah, Katie, Ezra, and Aiden.
And Ella.
And Ella. So
yeah, all on the Hypatia and all trying to survive because now they've got nowhere to fucking go. I'm so sad that all the drawings weren't up to date in this book.
yeah, so that means we have to buy it.
Yeah, our cover copies for the win. But yes, read this book. It is as good as a Illuminae, or as good as it's going to get.
If you haven't started this series, drop your life and start this series. They look intimidating. They are not intimidating. Like, it's...
Half of it is drawings, the other half is like half pages.
yeah.
So good. So entertaining.
Do it.
Yes.
Spaceship!
So we will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.